We're coming in hot today. Heavy P is in the house. The Democrats eat their own. In my preparation for the show, I got deep again into the Declaration of Independence. Hold on. That happens every day. I have one of my tabs open to the stream on YouTube, and it always plays live. Anyways, I'm Paul Sarkis. This is the Ordinary American. This is Forgiveness Friday, Fired Up Friday, July 3rd Friday. There is so much to go over. The title of the show is that the Democrats eat their own, and we're going to get into that. But July 3rd, the day after the actual vote on the Declaration of Independence. Tomorrow is July 4th, the day that we celebrate it. We should all be celebrating. By the way, I've got my Friday shirt on because Forgiveness Friday, but the 4th of July. I used to ask my parents, why isn't it a bigger holiday? My mom used to make it a big deal because she would have kids over, friends from the neighborhood would have watermelon and cook out, and it was great. And I used to love it. And I used to say, why is it not a bigger holiday? I mean, it's even as a little lad, I knew we were here because of America. Okay, I think if I remember correctly, the words on the Statue of Liberty are, they came yearning to be free. That's who humans are. So let's celebrate that. By the way, if the wokesters and the DEI idiots and the leftists and even the buffoon Democrat traitors who are around today were around in 1776, the Declaration of Independence would have been described as toxic masculinity. It is a unbelievable document that everybody should read every 4th of July. It is not hard and it is not long. My wife, because she's great, she gave me a bathroom. She decorated a bathroom all in Declaration of Independence wallpaper with American flags everywhere. We got the Bill of Rights in there. It's awesome. It's awesome. And so every time anybody goes in there, they're forced to read it or at least see it. And it always generates conversation. It is a call to arms. It is a list of grievances. It is saying the two things we talk about all the time that were not said out loud back then. All men are equal, and God gave us all of our rights. Those two things were not discussed. Go back and listen to yesterday's show. We went into that a bit. But for today, what I'm going to point out is that in that list of grievances, people aren't taught this because the leftists don't want you to know this. Heavy P, okay? Sorry about that. Heavy P, I'm just fired up. The original document, first draft, the final draft lists all the grievances. It had a grievance in there that addressed slavery especially and said that King George was preventing the abolishment of slavery and that he was making people suffer essentially. What happened to it? It was put in. Georgia and South Carolina objected to it. And the guys there, for better or for worse, they wanted unanimity. They wanted everybody to sign it. So that was the deal that they made. So when we're looking at Trump and we're saying, why is he being so friendly to Thune, who's a traitor? Think back to Jefferson and Adams and others who created the Declaration of Independence, who knew and believed that slavery was wrong. Farther back than the Declaration, by the way, obviously, if they were putting it in as a grievance. So anybody that wants to teach you that America is slavery and is built on slavery, the founding fathers knew it was wrong. That's why they put it in there. South Carolina and Georgia pulled it out. The future Democrats pulled it out because they all wanted unanimity. They wanted to be of one voice, the Declaration. Just a little something for us to listen to. We're going to watch something later on that Peter Navarro put together that's on Trump's Truth Social. Okay, but right now, let's get back to Mussolini, Bob Menendez. You may not know who he is, but we'll talk about him. And the Democrats eat their own. Okay, why is this coming up? It's coming up because, where is it? There it is. Yep, that's it. Okay, it's coming up because what we found out yesterday was that the FBI had been involved in investigating Mussolini. Well, that's not true. The FBI, we found out a while ago when Mussolini gave his press conference claiming to be the victim that the FBI had been investigating him for a while. What Mussolini didn't tell you in that press conference was Biden started the investigation. This is the point. FBI infiltrated Gavin Newsom's inner circle by convincing governor's ally to wear a wire. So what we find out when we read this, let me see if I can read this without my glasses. The FBI had a mole inside Gavin Newsom's political orbit before the agency's corruption probe expanded into the governor and his wife. That's Biden. The Democrats eat their own. Why? This is the bottom line up front, or spoiler alert, because the Democrats need total and complete singularity of voice, no dissent. That is a hallmark of all leftism, socialism, fascism, communism. Complete unanimity. That's the word today. I guess I'm using it a lot. It's hard to say, so I like kind of saying it. Unanimity. Okay? They need it. What do? They make examples. We've talked endlessly about how Trump was an example. They wanted, when he got out of the White House, to prosecute him endlessly and cause his destruction, and they hoped he would die. They hoped he'd go bankrupt. They hoped they'd be able to put him in jail. Why? A message. If you cross us, this will happen to you. He was the president. He's a billionaire, and we still got him. What do you think we'll do to you? That's the message. That's secret police stuff. That's leftism. That's Mussolini, Stalin, Lenin, Hitler. That's all leftism. Franco, all leftism. Chavez, Maduro, the Ayatollah, Kim Jong-un. I'm trying to think, all of the places. It's always the same thing. So what this all got brought around. So your question might be, well, why did Biden want to get Mussolini? We've talked about this. Mussolini went to China when he wanted to be president. Okay? And Biden didn't want that because Biden wanted to be president at the time, and then Biden wanted Harris to be president. Mussolini was going to China to try to puff up his profile, like, look, I can meet with Xi. And Biden got the Chinese to send third-level people to meet with him. So it came off as a failure. But Biden was pissed at that, and he was showing everybody, you stay in your lane. Here's a little historical fact for you. Obama decided, I'm not going to wait. The entire Democrat Party was put on hold for essentially 2 decades so that Hillary Clinton could run for president. And that was supposed to happen in 2008. What happened? Obama jumped in. Why? Because he knew what he could do, which he did, was he said, if you go against me, I'm going to call you a racist. What was Hillary going to do? The race was on. There's the rumors, and I believe that it's true, that the Illinois primary was corrupted, and he ended up winning. What was Hillary going to do? Scream corruption? She was part of it. But that's the Democrat Party. They tell you to stay and wait in line. This guy's next, and then this guy's next, and you be a good foot soldier, and you'll rise up the ranks. Mussolini was moving outside of the hierarchy. So they went after him. Democrat insider Alexis Podesta 45 secretly recorded conversations during the criminal probe into Newsom's then chief of staff, Dana Williamson, 53, who pleaded guilty to federal fraud and tax charges in May, according to Williamson's attorney. This is major. We're going to find out what this means. Where is it? Let me get to this next piece. The revelation she was wearing a wire as far back as June of 2024 explains why a swath of Sacramento political insiders and lobbyists were stunned to receive FBI letters last fall, informing them that their phone calls had been intercepted during the investigation, despite many having little or no connection to Williamson. Alexis wore a wire and Dana did not, said McGregor Scott, Williamson's lawyer and a former U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of California, which is now investigating it. Okay, we're not going to go into the full details because we don't need to. We're making the point, and we're going to skip to Menendez here in a second. The Democrats eat their own. There is you are never going to see, or you aren't going to see anytime soon, a giant primary like the Republicans had in 2015. I can't even remember. There was like 15 people on the stage. Go back just not long ago. You remember 2024? Can I think back that far? Halfwit Harris. Halfwit Harris became the nominee. How? I'm looking her up. No one voted for her. No one voted for her. There was no primaries. Biden won the primaries. I still don't know how they got her in. I still don't know how that's legal. Bernie won the 2015-16 primaries. The Democrats corrupted that. When was the last legitimate Democrat primary? Nobody really knows. The Democrat Party is completely corrupted. This gets to the corruption side of what JD and the Fraud Squad are looking at and all these nonprofits. Why do the Democrats allow everything to be corrupted? Well, for one, they're funding their entire program by stealing our money. That's one. Two, they know that if people see, oh, it's full of fraud, I can go do these things, I can rise up the ranks, they're going to attract the kind of people that they want, which are unscrupulous people. Think back to the James Carville, Gollum, his words of wisdom. There's no moral imperative above power. Power is the only moral imperative, because if you don't have power, you can't do anything. Democrats don't have values. They don't have morals. There's a Judeo-Christian ethic and value system that America was founded on. They do not want to have that because they know that that will not allow the kinds of people that they need in the government. So why do they need them in the government other than to just do a corruption and forward their own power? Because when somebody crosses them, they then have them compromised because they all know what the other ones are doing. And if you have the power, nobody will go against you. So why does nobody go against Pelosi or Obama or Hillary Clinton? Because they've had a lot of power. Why are they going after Mussolini? Because he didn't have the power back then. And they were showing everybody else in the Democrat world, you stay in line and you do the right thing and you'll rise up the ranks. You jump out of line and want to skip and we're going to look to crush you. The big fly in the ointment is once you start these investigations, you can't very easily unstop them. The paper trail is there. They thought Halfwit Harris would win, and then they could use that to negotiate with Mussolini or to tell him stand down or whatever, or take him go to the mattresses with it. Go full bore. You can be sure he was told along the way by messengers, bro, Biden doesn't like this. And you can be sure he said, I don't care. I'm doing it anyways. He essentially, if you want to think of it this way, he tried to go hunt the bear and the bear got him. All right. Now, if you remember, this happened under, pardon me, doing it live, clear my throat. This happened under Obama, Menendez. If you remember Menendez was a U.S. senator, extremely powerful. He was the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, one of the most powerful committees. Why do I say that? Because he spoke out against the Iran deal. Let's see, Bob Menendez lashes out at Obama over the Iran deal. Former Senator Bob Menendez, this was, by the way, after he was convicted, I'll go fill in the blanks in a second, lashed out Friday, this is about a year ago, at former President Obama, adding on to his past claims of weaponization at the Justice Department. Now, where is it? Let me see if I can here's the clip. So I'm going to skip to this one. This is the X post that he made about a year ago. Now, by the way, he is serving time in Schuylkill, the federal prison in Pennsylvania. I think that's where he is. Okay. People talk about, this is Bob Menendez, Senator Menendez. He was still using that. People talk about the Trump DOJ, but it was the Democrats who started weaponizing the Justice Department when as the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I didn't go along with Obama's Iran deal. I was indicted, and then the next day, after being stripped of my position, Obama announced the Iran deal. You see that? He was a guy who's, I don't know if his family was from Cuba. He was against the Cuban expansion that Obama was doing, trying to open them up without having any reforms. And he was against the Iran deal. He may be a Jewish guy. I'm not sure about that. Now they have to do this nonsense, okay? He was found guilty. How did this happen? Obama went after him, had a trial. Why? Trying to send the Democrats the message, guys, if you come out against me, we will get you, even if you're as powerful as the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. No dissent. This is to be contrasted with Trump. There's tons of dissent. There's no dissent on the Democrat side. It's met with this. Trump can't get his appointees through the Senate because Thune won't let the Senate go into recess. That's dissent. He won't pass the Save America Act that has 84% approval by Americans. That's dissent. You never see that under the Democrats. You see these indictments instead. So Menendez, because again, the Democrats know everyone's corrupted. They want it that way. They want everybody to do corruption. They want to attract those kind of people. They want to strip out the money and give it to them so that they can get rich and bribe other people and get more power. And they want the compromise because Washington, D.C. is based on compromise. So when a guy like Menendez steps out of line and won't go along with the Iran deal, which Obama wanted, we've talked about that endlessly. What happened? They indict him. They try him. What happens? The trial doesn't go well. It's a hung jury. They tried him for taking gifts or something from some eye doctor, which he probably did, by the way. Okay? I don't know why they couldn't get the better stuff, which we'll talk about here in a second. Hung jury, he goes home. Again, Obama didn't think that the Democrats would lose to Trump. So they didn't think that Trump would then have control of the Department of Justice. Trump did. What did Trump do? Nothing. They didn't retry him. What happened when Biden got back in? They knew more things. They got him with gold bars in his house and all kinds of bribery and other things. Another trial, convicted him, he's in jail. That's the message to Democrats. You step out of line, we will get you. That is total corruption. And you see, even he is waking up now and saying, it's not Trump corrupting the Department of Justice. It was Obama. All right? The Democrats eat their own. They don't know how to do it any other way. By the way, you can't fundamentally have a political movement based on hatred and victimhood, resentments, which we will talk about in Forgiveness Friday at the end of the show. You can't unless you also have a hierarchy of who's the most aggrieved. Blacks hate whites. They're bad. Men are supposed to hate women. Women are supposed to hate men. Gays are supposed to hate straights. Trans suddenly come in there, and they're supposed to hate the straight people too. But then you get the problem with the gays. Who's more aggrieved, the trans or the gays? There's a little bit of a hierarchy there. Oh, is the gay guy above in the Game of Thrones of grievance above the gay woman? Not sure. By the way, where do blacks sit in there? Are blacks above the gay guy, below the gay woman, next to the trans guy? What if you're a trans, gay, black guy? Where do you fit in the hierarchy of resentment? And then you got women. By the way, women have not woken up to the fact what they found out in 2008 was that the black guy is higher than women in the unofficial food chain of the left. What do I mean by that? Hillary Clinton waited, did every dirty trick in the book, probably committed crimes. You know the stories of all the people that have died around her. Whether they're true or not, who knows? But she wanted to be president. Then Obama comes in. Well, what did the Democrats do? They voted for Obama, evidently. They gave him the win in the primary. So I guess from a Democrat standpoint, black guy is above white woman. I guess, right? Then, because Mussolini, as we just said, wanted to be the next president, they picked a black woman over a white guy. They didn't have a primary. Somebody in the hierarchy just said she's going to be it. So all of leftism is based on dissent, resentment, and it requires this hierarchy, which obviously, because we're humans, means that even in that world, the Democrat world, there's resentments with each other. You can't control it. You can't, once resentments start and hatred, it's like a fire. It's like a forest fire. You can't control it. So why do the Democrats need total control? To control that. The Democrats are all leftist nonsense. When they say there's a difference between communism, fascism, and socialism, they're not right. There's little differences, but there's no, what do they say? It's a difference without a distinction, or a distinction without a difference. Menendez and Mussolini are examples of how the left eats their own. Everyone finds this out, by the way. By the way, Obama might find it out. Obama might find out that if it goes this far, I hope it is, the great Joe DeGeneva is leading this prosecution down in Florida, Hillary too, they all might get thrown under the bus. Because ultimately, they believe that the cause is bigger than any person, even bigger than Obama. And as long as you have the power, then you keep everybody else down. Just like in every tyrannical regime ever. Look at what's happening over in China with Xi. You always hear these reports, maybe once a year, that he moved somebody out. Somebody disappeared. Why? Because the strong man has to appear strong. Okay, all right. A lot of corruption. Democrats eat their own. We are going to move on. We're going to go back. I got a full page of notes. Okay, we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the Slaughter case. I want to play the great Peter St. Onge. Okay, I've been talking about the Slaughter case all week. I said to you, and last week too, I said to you, it didn't seem like it was getting the attention that it deserved. And Trump mentioned it specifically and said this is a bigger case. Now, a lot of people fluffed him off and said, he's just saying that because he lost birthright citizenship. Well, maybe, but I want to go back. I said to you guys and was posting on X, by the way, on X, it's the Ord American at X, that the Slaughter case, which essentially said that the century-old effort by the left to create this sort of above the law, ex-constitutional sort of society of regulators and experts who couldn't be fired even by the executive when they even worked in the executive branch. The Slaughterhouse case said, no, you can fire them. An obvious decision that took way too long to come through. But starting in the late 1800s, which we're going to see in Professor St. Onge's great video here, and then really jammed home through Woodrow Wilson, and then in the 30s with the, Humphrey's executor case. They created this group of people, it could be called the deep state, who were unfireable. And they were experts. The leftists always want the experts to run everything. Why? Because they control the experts. The experts suck. One of the foundational principles of the show. The experts suck. Never listen to experts. Make up your own mind. Use your own noggin. Take in information. I always bring this up. When I go get my car serviced, they use scare tactics. You got to get this fixed. I don't really know. I got to get on AI, which we're going to get into here in a second on this topic. And I see what they're really trying to say. The experts, by the way, hate AI because AI turns all of us into real critical thinkers, where we have suddenly in our pocket, in our phone or on our computer, we have every expert in the world. And we can just get data and information without getting spun. Okay? So the Slaughter case. The Slaughter case said you can fire these people. Trump said that's a big deal. I said that's a massive deal. You combine that with the Chevron deference going away in 2024 Supreme Court decision, which was another case from, I think, the 80s that said everybody has to defer to the experts. Give them deference. They know what they're doing. A bunch of hogwash. Okay? They've caused every calamity that humans have ever had, including COVID. With Chevron deference gone, and now Slaughter decided that the executive controls the executive branch and can fire anyone he wants. Trump has struggled because there are all of these rules and regulations designed by the left to keep people hired in the deep state that he can't fire. He's had to come up with things like Schedule F and other ways to get rid of them. And he's done a great job. But now he can fire anyone he wants. He could even fire practically everyone in a department. So before we get to St. Onge, we're going to play St. Onge. You can't believe how many departments are in the executive branch alone of government. Just start to run in your brain all of the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of HUD, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Secretary of War, Secretary of State, Secretary of the Interior. there's like 15 departments, I think it is. Okay. Within each department, there are dozens of bureaus, commissions, agencies, whatever they're called. Within those are hundreds and hundreds of experts. And what do? They make laws. Unelected people. This is why slaughter was decided. They make laws. They're not supposed to. The laws by the Constitution are supposed to be written by Congress. Trump now has the ability to kind of fire whoever he wants, including entire departments. Now, technically, he probably can't eliminate a department that Congress created necessarily, but he can try and fight it out in the courts, but he can fire anybody. So now he no longer has to worry about, is this person going to, is this a civil servant, which has different rules than a political appointee? Nope, all the same, can be fired. Quick review. We have the executive branch, we have the judicial branch, and we have the legislative branch. The legislative branch makes the laws. Judicial branch is supposed to interpret them, not make them. And the executive is to execute everything. And there's a huge number of people in the executive branch. He's going to, I suspect strongly now, super shrink the executive branch and get rid of these commissions. And we're going to go into some of these specific ones another day. Okay, a major decision. This is the great Professor St. Ange, and he is talking here about this decision. So I just want to listen to him a little bit, little film study.
The Supreme Court just gutted one of the load-bearing walls of the deep state.
Oh, yeah.
Voting 6-3 to let Trump fire thousands of independent bureaucrats who are the spine of the deep state. Could we see the day when voters actually control the government that rules them? Last week, the Supreme Court decided
We could only dream. We could only dream. This is the dream of the left. This is the European Commission. They don't want the voters to have any say. They want the unelected, which they appoint or they give the job to, they control. Why? Through corruption, like we just talked about. Every one of these people, somebody in power gave them the position, all these experts. There wasn't a nationwide search. They all got the job. Let me tell you, as I tell you all the time, state government used to say in Massachusetts, our job is to employ the unemployable. Every job in state government is viewed as a bribery, as a gift. Okay, it's the same thing in the federal government. I'm going to give you this job. You owe me. You're my guy. Okay, same thing here. This is why Trump's had so much difficulty getting some of his stuff done, because they hide in here and they fight him.
Long-anticipated Trump v. Slaughter case, which revisits a 90-year precedent called Humphrey's Executor that insulated independent agencies from dismissal by the president. Now, this matters because independent agencies control some of the most important policy levers in the federal government, including the FTC that was at issue in Slaughter, which can block corporate mergers, the SEC, CFTC, and FDIC, which control financial markets and banking insurance, the FCC, who controls free speech, FEC for elections, NLRB for unions.
It's endless.
FERC for energy markets,
Keep going.
EEOC for affirmative action,
Keep going.
USITC that controls much of trade policy. It's pretty close to the whole shebang. That's a substantial part of the federal government, all outside the control of the president, meaning outside the control of voters, whose only influence is the president and Congress they elect. But with the filibuster paralyzing Congress, that boils down to only the president.
Touchdown.
So Slaughter puts the ball back in voters' hands. The background here is socialist progressives waged a century-long jihad to take the government away from voters and turn it into a self-licking ice cream cone that serves the progressive revolution. The landmark moment was the 1883 Pendleton Act that established an independent bureaucracy insulated from political control, hence voter control. The excuse was to fight corruption, which of course is as alive as ever, but the result was voters became spectators while federal workers became an occupying army. The deep state was born. It consolidated into so-called independent boards, starting with the Interstate Commerce Commission in 1887 that unconstitutionally regulated business. Then it took off an FDR socialist New Deal with dozens of agencies created to rule the country without voters. By 1946, this occupying army won the right to effectively write law in the Administration Procedure Act, then wrangled itself near immunity from being fired in the 1978 Civil Service Reform Act, bringing us to today where almost 90% of laws are written by bureaucrats.
Think about that. 90% of the laws that we have to live under are written by unelected bureaucrats. Unelected bureaucrats who are largely corrupted and largely loyal to someone other than you and doesn't have to respond to you. Some other person, an elected official or some other powerful person. That is how, over time, we get apathetic about our government and we stop voting because we stop seeing the connection between our vote and them. This is why the founders made it so that US senators were appointed by the state legislatures because we were closer to the state legislatures than we would be, they knew this, to the federal government. So they said, no. The House is the people's house. You'll vote for them, 2-year terms, short. The senators with 6-year terms, your state legislatures, you elect them, you see them, you work with them, you live with them. They're in your community every day. They appoint them. The 17th Amendment was all part of this, to strip away the voters' access to making real change. They tricked us, or our ancestors, by telling us, you get to elect the senators directly. That's more power for you. No, it's not. It was way less power. It's centralized corruption. Back at it.
Not by Congress. Until last week, there's nothing you could do about it. Slaughter now joins a parade of recent decisions turning the tide, including Sala, Collins, and Loper-Bright, which give the presidents more control over bureaucrats while giving Congress a bigger role in actually writing the laws that, according to the Constitution, they alone are supposed to write. But there is still miles to go. On the very same day, the court stayed Trump's firing of Fed member Lisa Cook, allegedly on a technicality, but possibly revealing a reluctance to let elected presidents control the unconstitutional Federal Reserve that all but controls the economy. Meanwhile, while Loper and now Slaughter dramatically reshuffle the cards, federal rulemaking, court deference, and federal worker protections remain stubborn and will need multiple decisions to root out. So SX brought to you by the Bitcoin Way. In the near term, Trump can purge independent agencies so they stop sabotaging his agenda. Meanwhile, agencies like FTC and SEC are likely to pull back on planned regulatory pushes to keep their heads down. But zooming out, we could see major reductions in the regulatory tax on the economy that studies imply could double or quadruple wages, to the point Starbucks and dog walkers would be making 6 figures. And assuming the Lisa Cook firing is refiled with the technicalities fixed, we could even see a Federal Reserve that actually answers to the people it abuses. Read the rest with Charlie.
I love his humor, to the people it abuses. Okay? He's right on all of that. Where he's wrong, I think, is I think he underestimates even the profound effect. I don't think Trump is going to go slow. I think Trump is going to really grab this and use it. I think you're going to see, and I don't think he's going to be all that loud about it at first, but I think you're going to see the firings increase. I think now that he doesn't have anything in his way, the left will file lawsuits, he will fight them. But I think you're going to see Trump move more quickly to shrink all these agencies, including agencies like the IRS. Okay, he was naming all these FE this, FEC, FFFFFF. Why? Federal. That's what it's called. I just plugged into Grok a little bit of, hey, how many federal agencies are there, how many bureaus, et cetera. And it came up with obviously the 15, which I'm going to put up on the screen here. But then what does it say? Well, let's go look at it. So it's got all the departments, and look at all the departments, and under them has dozens of other departments. Then you got agencies, commissions, and bureaus, just like an endless stream. Then I was sort of like, well, give me a number. Okay. They say the number is between 438 and 448. Then there's others that say it's much bigger than that. Okay. So somewhere between, say, 400 and 500 agencies, bureaus, commissions, organizations that are making laws, that are dictating to us, totally unelected, by the way, and total tenure. That's what Slaughter's about. We can fire, the president can fire him. Can't be removed. This is a major, major deal, and even bigger than the professor is saying, in my opinion. He's got all of the facts right. He's got the great humor in there. The Federal Reserve, by the way, not a coincidence that at the same time the Lisa Cook case was coming through and the Supreme Court, corrupted it as it is, said, oh, well, yeah, the executive can fire anybody they want, but not Federal Reserve governor. What? So the money printer, the people that cause the wealth gap. We've been over this. Money gets printed. The people at the top, closest to the money printer, people with assets, they get the benefit of the inflation and prices, the appreciation. The people below it who don't own a lot of assets, who are farther away from the money printer, they get less or no benefit. That creates the wealth gap. Okay? So the Supreme Court said, but you can't fire her. Now that he mentioned there was a technicality, she'll get fired. They're going to fix it. They're going to fire her. And now they'll start to really dismantle that too. So a very, very big case. Huge, huge, huge. Okay, got to move on because I want to play, as you know, I say all the time, you got to check the Truth Social account for the president if you're going to come on and do a live stream about anything related to pretty much anything, because he's liable to say or do anything. Okay, today I noticed, I think he put this on last night, I'll double check, that Peter Navarro made a video. There's a couple of reasons why I'm playing this. 19 hours ago. So I didn't check until this morning. Peter Navarro does this video. Where did it go? Peter Navarro did this video, and it is a little bit long, but I want to play it because it makes several points. One, it's celebrating America. Two, it's they opened up a new exhibit down in Washington to celebrate America's greatness. But what he goes into here is how we removed a statue of King George, and one American went and made bullets out of it, essentially. This ties into the American system. This was probably the birth of the American system. Let's just watch it. It's a little bit long. I might break it up a little bit.
In July of 1776, King George III still towered over New York City, not in person, in lead. At Bowling Green, near the tip of Manhattan, stood a gilded 4,000-pound statue of King George on horseback, dressed like a Roman emperor. It had been erected just 6 years earlier as a monument to British power. But by the summer of 1776, Americans no longer saw majesty in this statue. They saw tyranny. On July 9, 1776, George Washington gathered his troops in New York and had the newly adopted Declaration of Independence read aloud. The words had barely settled before soldiers, sailors, and patriots surged down Broadway to Bowling Green and toppled the King George statue. While the crowd saw tyranny toppled, Connecticut patriot Oliver Wolcott saw bullets. 4,000 pounds of lead bullets for a Continental Army Wolcott knew would be desperate for ammunition. So
this is one of the first points. With freedom, with liberty, the great individual, our God-given gifts, get to flourish. He's sitting there and he sees bullets. Maybe other people did too, maybe they didn't, but he decides to act on it. He can do that because he doesn't have the tyranny of the state constantly on him. He doesn't have the constant resentment and oppressor versus oppressed and everybody spying on each other to get in favor with the people in power. He doesn't have that in America. He's able to just let his creativity flow, his genius. And this is what happens.
Wolcott had the shattered pieces of King George loaded onto boats and shipped to Connecticut. From there, ox carts hauled the remains of King George more than 60 miles over rough country roads to Wolcott's home in Litchfield.
60 miles on horse.
And in the Wolcott family orchard, a shed became a foundry. His wife Laura, his daughter Marianne, and local neighbors worked over melting pots, pouring the king's lead into bullet molds. 42,088 musket balls in all. Some of those bullets were fired 2 years later at the Battle of Monmouth, the brutal New Jersey showdown where Washington's army proved it could stand in the open field against British regulars.
The American system of the political economy. Promethean Action, Susan Kokinda and Barbara Boyd have been leading this charge. I am on board with it. The American system, this is what it looks like at its birth. One big piece of it is manufacture everything that you need: medicine, food, weapons, technology. That was the version of technology, by the way, that manufacturing, because we do use technology in weapons. So chips, everything we need. This is how it started, because individual freedom and liberty allowed this guy to think about what he could do, get other people to believe in it, go through the effort of getting that 4,000-pound thing to Connecticut from Pennsylvania, and then go about doing this.
Regulars. You have to love the irony. Britain sent America a monument to empire. America sent it right back at muzzle velocity. So let's celebrate our nation's 250th birthday as we remember patriots like Oliver Wolcott who made it all possible. From the White House, I'm Peter Navarro.
Unbelievable. By the way, I did not know that story. I mean, I'm not claiming I know every story of every American from the founding, but I read a ton, and it's a passion and an obsession, and I'd never heard that story. That is the birth of the American system. Make everything in-house, essentially, and let freedom and liberty reign. So the creativity of the person. Why do most of the world's great inventions come from America? Because we're the most free, because we're the best country in the world, because we're the greatest gift that anybody's ever been given in terms of governance. How did one small group of guys in one little corner of the world, the Northeast, essentially really just a sliver, know, study, learn, fight with each other, reconcile, figure things out, come up with the Declaration of Independence, imperfect as it is, as we discussed at the beginning, because the grievance about slavery was left out. But they got it passed and it changed the world. That's divine providence. That's divine providence. I want to do a quick note on Peter Navarro. Peter Navarro, a great American. He was working for Trump and Trump won. The Democrats wanted to have some documents from him. They subpoenaed them through Congress. He said no. He was indicted and he was jailed. And I think he spent 4 months in prison. That's the Democrats. Go back to the beginning of the show with corruption. Okay? Contrast that. The great Dan Bongino contrasts is how politics works. I do this, my opponent does this. Peter Navarro was jailed for not delivering documents, being essentially in contempt of Congress. Pardon me. Eric Holder, who was the Attorney General under Obama, remember the guy who said, I'm the president's wingman? No, none of the Democrats were worried about an independent Department of Justice then. He was held in contempt of Congress because he wouldn't give Congress the documents about the guns being put into Mexico, which resulted in an American death, the great Brian Terry. Exact same offense. He was not indicted. Navarro was indicted and put in jail. Again, sending the message. Trump's very existence is sending us all the message that you don't have to go give in to tyranny. Peter Navarro being out and making that video is an example. You don't have to give in to tyranny. You might have to suffer. Suffering is unavoidable in some cases. Okay? But in America, freedom and liberty will reign. So July 3rd, we want to remember these things. That's the beginning of the American system. And it shows creativity when it's unleashed, what it can do. All right, this is Forgiveness Friday. As you know, the show is based on anti-leftism. We are anti-leftists, anti-Democrats. The left needs us unwell spiritually, physically, and mentally. So we try to spend some time during the week on all of those topics. The spiritual topic is most important. Why? Because the greatest life hack you can do is develop a relationship with God, period. Nothing else will come close. You should do other things too, but that's the most important. I hope if you don't have a relationship with God and you're watching this, you'll develop one today. Just start praying. Okay? Forgiveness is a gift that we receive from God because He forgives us endlessly. We don't have to ask for it. He just forgives us. Two unbelievable things that every human should take comfort in, which is why he does it. A, he forgives us, and B, he loves us no matter what. I can never lose his love, even when I sin, because he forgives me. Now, one of the things he tells us is I think I actually have this. Yeah, okay, let me put this up. One of the things he tells us is we need to love each other like he loves us. Let's read this. This is from John, 14 something? A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. How do I love people when I'm resentful towards them? And I'm a human and I'm going to be resentful about them. I'm going to hate them. I'm going to get angry. Forgiveness. This is the power of forgiveness. This is why in the Lord's Prayer, we ask for forgiveness, which he gives us, and we commit to forgiving. Not because God's going to love us more, because that's our commitment. That's what we do. That allows us to keep these commandments because we are not God. He is perfect. He doesn't need to forgive to love us. He just loves us. It's bigger than that. I will often say that sometimes I view God as just a really smart human. That's unbelievably retarded. He is not just a smart human. He is everything and all things. Knows everything, created everything. So it's way more than that. So he doesn't struggle with resentment like we do. We do struggle with resentment. So we need forgiveness. So on this Forgiveness Friday, I hope you'll find somebody to forgive. Even if you're sitting at home saying, I don't have anybody to forgive, find somebody. Maybe it's somebody maybe you go to the grocery store and you're in the seven items or less line and you see somebody up there with 10 items and you get a little forgiveness. Okay, maybe you're out on the road driving and somebody does something that they shouldn't. Forgiveness. Okay? Forgiveness is how we're able to love each other. I always mention this because I think it's critically important so it doesn't get weaponized. Forgiveness doesn't mean be a doormat. Forgiveness doesn't say, let somebody come into my house and take all my food and hurt my family and take over everything and destroy it and then leave. Illegal aliens. Doesn't say that. I don't have to do that. I can forgive and have boundaries. And Trump is the greatest example of this. Everybody says he doesn't hold grudges. That's forgiveness. The dude is able to call a crazy person over in North Korea, some dude with small hands and a small button and whatever, and then hug it out with them and make a deal. He's able to say, Xi in China, you better not do this, then go over and make a deal. He's able to, what did he used to say about Rubio? Go back and look at the videos. He was aggressive. He's an aggressive bro. Okay? And now, what's he saying? Rubio's great, the best Secretary of State of all time. That's forgiveness. All right, Forgiveness Friday. I brought Heavy P down a little bit. This corruption, the Democrats, this, by the way, ultimately will be the downfall of the Democrats, which is they are self-eating, they're self-immolating. They have to kill everybody. Right now, what's happening? Black Americans are waking up. Trump got 24% of the black vote, mostly on the men's side, I believe, but I'm not sure about that. But that's, I think, double or maybe even bigger than the Republicans that got of the black vote in decades, maybe since Reagan. I'm not sure. What does that mean? That means people are waking up. That means the black vote is realizing, oh, wait a second. The Democrats do suck. They're leftists. They pretended that they were with me, the civil rights movement, which didn't even exist without the Republicans voting for it in Congress. The Democrats filibustered it. Okay? The black voters have woken up. I suspect, let's wait and see, that 24% hopefully goes to 34% and then 50%. No black American should be voting Democrat. Why? Because you've been used and tricked and your communities have been sacrificed to the gods of the left. What do I mean by that? Where are the worst schools, generally speaking, in black communities? Who controls them? Democrats. Why? Because they hate you. and they don't want your children to be able to read, write, and do math as well as theirs. The Democrats have always been the party of racism. People are waking up, okay? Jewish Americans, slowly waking up. You should not be voting Democrat. Why? Because you're seeing that the Democrats are anti-Semitic. They hate the Jewish people. They're embracing these ridiculous people saying free Palestine. Every time you hear free Palestine, you can just hear I hate Jews. That's what it means. That's all it means. Okay? That's the Democrat Party. And you were tricked when you voted for Obama. He hated you. We just showed this with Menendez. He wanted to send tons of money, which he did, over to Iran, who wants to destroy you. And Menendez had tried to stop it. What does Obama do? Puts him in jail. You supported that. You got to wake up. People are waking up and finding out that in this hierarchy of grievances, black guys and black people are figuring out, oh, wait a second, the trans and the others are above me. Jewish Americans are coming to find out, oh, they don't really love me. Oh boy, wait it. Everybody will find out. Anti-leftist. I got back on that. All right. This is The Ordinary American. I'm your host, Paul Sarkis. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and follow. It really helps. I would be very grateful on this July 3rd. I'm thinking about doing something on July 4th because we got to get the message out. America is the greatest inheritance anyone has ever received. America. And we owe it to the people who came before us. We owe it to the people who stormed the beaches of Normandy. We owe it to the founding fathers who signed the Declaration of Independence saying, we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honors for this, to build our country. They had the most to lose, and many of them lost it all. We owe it to them. We owe it to everybody who came before us, the people who fought in Vietnam, the people who fought in World War I, the people who fought in Korea, the people who fought in Afghanistan. We owe it to all of them to not squander this inheritance, which requires education and love of country. On this July 4th, or tomorrow's July 4th, on this July 3rd, read the Declaration of Independence. All right. As the great Father Mike Schmitz says, I'm praying for you, please pray for me. I like to say, I'm rooting for you, please root for me. We'll see you maybe tomorrow.